Popolo di MegaNerd, benvenuti nel nostro canale. Abbiamo un ospite davvero eccezionale oggi. Lo avete letto, è proprio qui con noi, ma prima di annunciarlo voglio dirvi che con me ci saranno Lorella e Gianluca.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Benvenuti ragazzi, e noi tre insieme, in rappresentanza della redazione di MegaNerd, abbiamo l'onore e il privilegio di intervistare Mr. Todd McFarlane.
Man, that doesn't even sound like it's fake. So I appreciate it.
Just a little bit fake.
Yeah.
So, how are you? Are you really you? You are Todd McFarlane. You are not Violator. You are not. Okay.
So
Yes,
yeah,
That's,
on the real deal. So that's it. Thank you for having me and being able to talk to the good people of Italy. So.
Allora, innanzitutto, benvenuto anche se virtualmente in Italia. È veramente un onore averti qui con noi, insomma, per questa chiacchierata che faremo. E dunque direi di iniziare subito.
Sure. I was in Italy not that long ago, so I have fond memories.
Allora, noi siamo MegaNerd e dunque vogliamo iniziare a parlare di una delle ultime cose che tu hai fatto, ovvero la partecipazione al MegaCon di Orlando. E dunque com'è stato riabbracciare tutti i fan e vivere quella meravigliosa atmosfera?
It's an interesting question because what I do at the shows has remained constant for 30, 40 years, right? You sit down, people come, they block your view, you look at their bellies, and you give them autographs, and they say very kind things to you. The only difference is that it used to be in a small room, and now you're in these giant places, but I don't get to see it because I just have people's bellies in front of me all day long, and I sign and I do the same thing. So the shows are getting big, but I'm just in this little corner right here, and I never get to see it. So, but it's always fun to go.
So the experience for you is pretty much bellies, people's bellies, pretty much the same.
Let me tell you, I get to see a lot of really fun, interesting shirts, right? T-shirts. I see T-shirts
Okay.
like so.
Yeah.
That's it. But I don't get to enjoy the conventions. I get to interact with the people who happen to be in front of me, and that's it, which is fun. But I don't get the joy of the rest of the convention. So.
Io avevo un'altra domanda invece per Todd. Ho letto che da giovane Todd McFarlane voleva fare il giocatore di baseball professionista. Per nostra fortuna invece sei diventato uno dei più grandi autori di comics degli ultimi 40 anni. Ma un po' di quella competizione, un po' di quell'ambizione sportiva ti è tornata utile all'interno delle scelte che poi hai fatto nella tua carriera?
uh, the the sports was an extension of what is just part of my personality, which is I'm super competitive. Right? I have a brother a year younger, a brother a year older, and everything was competition. Right? Everything with boys, everything. So, that's just my personality. I don't remember never being this way. So sports is a good outlet for it, but it also, when I went and got my job in comic books, that it taught me to be focused, make sure you do the job right, and you're playing against other people that basically want to take your position. And so you better work hard and you better hustle and try and figure out ways to get the coach to pay attention to you. In this case, the editors and the readers are my coaches, right? So, okay, I'm doing comic books up against maybe 500 other potential artists. How do I get noticed? And that's where the competition and the focus comes in.
Yeah, right. It's not a world where there's only one person struggling for that. So I guess it comes
Yeah,
it comes in
yeah,
handy. Everybody wants a spot, so it comes in
yes,
handy.
right, and they're limited
Yeah,
spots,
yeah.
right? So you not only do you need a fight to get a spot, but once you get the spot,
You
you
have to
have to
keep it.
like you have to keep it, right? And somebody's always trying
Yeah,
to come along and take
yeah.
it. Yep.
And you worked, of course, for both of the two big companies that are in comic books, so Marvel and DC. And with Marvel, of course, your connection with Spider-Man is quite clear. With DC, it seems clear that the character you feel most attached to is Batman, because for him, you've created
Yep.
some iconic illustrations, some iconic pages that will remain forever part of the character's history. In addition to the beautiful Batman Year 2 series, of course. So, what is the aspect of this creature of the night that fascinates you the most?
Um, he and I'm gonna make. I'm just gonna geek out here for a minute. But Batman, of all the characters that I don't own, he's the one I can relate to the most personally, right? And it goes something like this: that Batman, Bruce Wayne, has tons and tons of money. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about the money. And then he's sort of good looking, and all the ladies want to date with him, and he can go to all the parties. He doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about the social life and being a big shot and being a celebrity. What he cares about is going home and sitting and waiting until it's 2 o'clock in the morning, the dead of night. And then he turns to Alfred and he says, "Get me that black costume. I'm going to go scare the shit out of him." And the people he's scaring are those that are trying to scare us. I'm gonna give it back to them, their own medicine. For me, what all of that is I just don't have any patience for bullies. And bad guys in comic books are bullies, and we meet them in our real life, bullies. And Batman is saying, "I'm not going to let them bully me. I'm going to bully them back, and I'm going to teach them, and I'm going to get it done." So I actually get that guy, right? My wife says that I'm going to get killed because I put myself in positions where I stand up to people, and she's like, "How do you know they don't have a gun?" Right? Like I'm like, "Well, I don't. I mean, we're in America, so those are the odd conversations you have." But it's like, I don't know that they have a gun. How did they know I don't have a bazooka? Right? Like, I'm not going to let that person push me around. Like, go find an easier target. That's not me. So that's why I like Batman. Batman's like, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to stand up for other people. And when you have a position of power, I think you should use it to not only help yourself but help others.
Yeah, also because if we don't do it when we have a privilege, who is going to do it? I mean,
And if you and it's sadly it comes down to personality, right? We were taught, and I don't know if you guys know the story of the emperor's clothes, right? Where
yeah,
everybody remains silent because nobody wants to say something that's going to get them in trouble. And sometimes the truth is sort of a difficult thing to say. Everybody is thinking the same thing. It's just that nobody will say it out loud, right?
yeah,
But I've always been that person. I'm like, oh, shit, I'll say it because we're not happy. We're not happy with the situation. Somebody's gonna say, we've been talking about this for a week, and now we're not. We're gonna go silent. Not me, not me. So, uh, but but that's just I've learned as I've gotten older. That's just my personality, and either you're fearless or you're not, right? And I don't know why I am. I just have that, but you can't, it's not something you can sort of teach. Either somebody's proactive or they're not. They're either passive or they're not, right? So okay, I'll put it as simple as I can. I think there's two kinds of dogs in the world. One that bites and one that doesn't bite. That's it. And if you've ever had a dog that does not bite, you can pull its tail, you can pull its ear, you can do a lot of things to it. The dog will never bite because it's nice. It will get up, it will grump, and it will move to another room. But what it will never do is bite at that moment, right? Now the biters, that's me. Like I'm constantly biting. So I'm just a biter. And you can't teach a non-biting dog to bite. They're nice. I have children like that. They're very nice human beings. They're not like dad, luckily. So anyway, long-winded way of saying I think Batman's cool.
Continuiamo a parlare di un altro personaggio sicuramente molto cool che lui ha contribuito a rendere, a far diventare ancora più cool, che è Spider-Man. Ovviamente, anche in questo caso l'arte di Todd ha contribuito a regalarci delle pose che sono ormai entrate nell'immaginario collettivo. Lui è stato forse il primo a disegnare Spider-Man come un vero ragno. Le sue movenze, i suoi combattimenti, i suoi attacchi erano letteralmente presi dalle movenze dei ragni. Dunque volevo sapere quanto studio c'è stato dietro per realizzare una versione così particolare di Spider-Man e in seconda battuta se sa che in Italia il suo particolare il suo particolare modo di disegnare la ragnatela viene chiamato ragnatela spaghetti.
Yeah, because that's what I call them. Yep.
Yeah.
The reason that they're called spaghetti webbing is because the editor in chief at that time, Tom DeFalco, was an Italian. He's an Italian, right? And he got mad at me. He got mad at me one day. He always says, "Todd, I never said that." Like, yes, you did, Tom. I'm like, there were moments in my life I remember really clearly. And I remember him getting mad saying, and you got to stop. He didn't like the way I was drawing them, but there was no name for it. So he was mad. He go, you got to stop with those spaghetti weapons. And he said it. The Italian guy said it. And so I went, perfect. From that day on, I had a name for him, spaghetti webbing. Yeah, thank you, Tom. He was mad, but he gave me a really good piece of information while he was mad. So thank you, Tom. It was actually the opposite of research, right? I said when Peter Parker puts on the costume, I'm gonna put all the attention on the word spider. And so I ignored anatomy, right? It's usually not something that when you're learning to do comic books, you ignore, but I did. I just went, I don't know how the human being gets into those poses of Spider-Man. I don't even know if it's possible. It doesn't matter. It looks good on page, right? It looks fun. It looks fun. So I just ignored the reality of the world and went, no, we're gonna just make this Spider-Man guy do stuff that no other character can do except for Spider-Man, and we're gonna make him. We're gonna make him unique, and that was it. That was so. And when they years later, when they tried to make the first movie of him, Sam Raimi, they found that they couldn't put a human being in those positions, given they were using a lot of my reference. And so they tried, and they went, no, we can't. Okay, we'll go get somebody who's double jointed. Nope. Triple jointed. Nope. We'll go to Las Vegas and go to Circus du Soleil and get the contortionist. Nope. And so they had to just go and use computer generated. They just go, oh, because computer generated, we can break the spine and we can break the pelvis, and then you can do those really cool poses. So at some point, comic books are just having fun, and you have to suspend reality. So I did no research. I just went, what's cool? What would be cool? What would be fun? What would be fun to draw? And that was it.
Allora, io invece volevo parlare di una delle tue creazioni più importanti della Marvel, ovvero Venom. Sei il co-creatore di questo villain che appunto esordisce nelle storie che tu disegni. Ma sei contento dell'evoluzione che ha avuto il personaggio da villain a eroe nel corso del tempo? Perché secondo me funzionava molto meglio come cattivo, come villain.
If you're asking, I would have kept him a bad guy. I I thought he was cooler as a bad guy. Although he's done quite well as like an anti-hero with his 3 movies. So I obviously was wrong. But the reason I would have kept him a villain is because I think that when you talk about the top tier, the top ranked villains, there's not a lot of them, right? You got Doctor Doom, Doc Ock, the Red Skull, Magneto, you know, maybe I guess Ultron and a couple of things you've seen in the Avengers movie. If you ask about heroes, you got a big long list of heroes, right? So I thought that, here's this character coming along called Venom that was now going to join the ranks of like one of the great villains. And I thought we needed more because we weren't adding to it during the 80s and 90s. We weren't adding any really big villains to it. But, and I thought that because he was so big and so powerful, it made the goal of winning for Spider-Man much more difficult, and so you took that piece away, right? So, but anyway, that's me. But I don't own Marvel, right? They get to do what they get to do, and they've done quite well without my input. So I guess that's why to some extent I guess that's why they did Carnage. They upgraded Venom and they go, oh man, we need that bad villain, and so Carnage comes in and fills that.
So again, staying on Spider-Man, it gave you the opportunity to have more creative space within Marvel. You even became the writer of the 4th series of Spider-Man. It sold a lot. It was a huge success in terms of sales. And was it with Spider-Man that you realized that you could be a complete author and could, do more?
Yeah, again, go back to the beginning of the interview where I said I'm competitive, right? So I'm like, I can pencil. I broke in as a penciler. Man, I think I can ink, right? This is my self-confidence. I can pencil and ink. I can write, like again, not knowing anything about writing. I just thought I could do it. Here's why I wanted to become a writer, really, and it's not maybe a good answer. I wanted to become a writer so that I could draw what I wanted to, right? Because what was interesting when I worked with other writers, and I worked with, many talented writers, is that they were always putting their favorite like co-stars or villains into the book, and it was the ones they wanted to see. And unfortunately, I don't have any recollection of any one of them, any writer, ever asking, "Hey Todd, do you have any favorite villains that you would like me to put in the book?" So I said, "Okay, well, the only way I'm going to get a chance to draw some of the characters I want, I guess I've got to learn to write my own books." And so that was it. And as you can see, my run on Spider-Man, I like monsters. The whole run was pretty much a monster run, right? It was It was the lizard, and then it was hobgoblin, and it was Wendigo, and it was Morbius. I mean, it was just monsters. Like, because I like to draw, and then I get to continue that obviously for decades now with Spawn. But I do remember that, so that when I hire an artist to do any work for me, especially if I'm writing it, the first question I ask them is, "What do you want to draw? Tell me what you get excited about, and I will figure out a story that has a focus on some of those elements that you want to draw, or a character you want to do. I don't care, like, or you want to be in Paris and you don't want to draw New York. Okay, fine. Just tell me. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out for you." So,
And it's very kind of you to ask, because many, as you said, just don't ask. They just say, okay, this is the script. So that's what you're supposed to do.
let me also tell you, I've never done a full script. I've never written a full script ever. Right, to this day, right? So the you can imagine, I left Marvel and I put my head down and I go, I'm going to do this book called Spawn. And I was doing Spawn and I wasn't paying attention to Marvel and DC. I didn't like, what do I care? I don't control that. I control Spawn. And so at some point I lifted my head and years had gone by. San Diego with a bunch of people sitting at dinner, and somebody started telling me that they were doing full scripts. The writers were doing full scripts. And I was like, what? Like, I drew one story. I drew one story from a full script in my whole career. And I'll if you want, I'll show you the scars, because I still have the scars, right? I remember it. It's like, it was horrible. And I went, "You write full script? Oh man." And then I turned to the other writer. I'm like, "Man, can you imagine, like, full script?" And then he was just looking at me and I went, "You what? You too?"
You too.
And he went, "Yeah." And then I found out that there was, like, Todd, it's not him and him, it's the entire industry. The entire industry. And I went, "What are you telling me? So everybody writes a full script now?" Wow.
But on the other hand, Tom is exactly like you, Tom DeFalco. He said he prefers an idea, not a script. So
Yeah, here's the fun for me, and maybe I'm just an old man now. Is you'd get the idea from the writer, and then you would then sort of do the directing. You become the director,
yeah.
And then from the directing of basically what you drew, you would then give it back to the writer, and the writer would have to write depending on what the acting was, right? So if in the scene I drew somebody and they're going like this, you might put in a different word balloon than if I drew that character doing this, right? And so to me, that's sort of the fun of it, right? And so when I do a scene and I give it to my artist, all I need them to do is to make sure that they end the scene the way that I need them to, right? So I have Peter Parker and I have Mary Jane Watson. It's a 3-page scene. At the end, I need Peter and Mary Jane to be mad at each other. That's the scene. Because why? Because I know how the rest of the story is going to play for the next couple issues. In those 3 pages, I don't care when they get mad at each other. I'll leave that up. I'll let the artist be the director. You can either get them to get mad at each other at the beginning, and then for 3 pages they're mad at each other, or they can be happy with each other, and at the very end, one of them says something that makes the other one mad, and they go, "What did you say about my mama? You don't talk about my mama that way." And then they leave the room. Either way, if you start them mad here or you start them mad here, you end the scene with them mad. That's all I need. And whatever you want to draw, as a writer, I will adapt. I actually find it like the fun part of writing is looking at the art and adapting to it. It's weird to me. It's weird to me that writers are so inflexible. And then one last piece that is the horror piece to me. When I found that out, and this is my ego, when I found that out that everybody's doing full scripts, I said, so you're saying, I just want to be clear, you're saying that if I ever decided to leave Spawn and come back to Marvel or DC, you could put me on a book, there would be a 21-year-old writer on the book, and they're going to tell me, a 40-year vet, how to draw my pages. Is that how this works now? Wow. Wow. So I couldn't, like, they were like, no, well, not you, Todd. But here's and I'm going to go off here. I went to a panel, DC, put a panel up, and it was the great artist of DC, or something like that. I forget what it was called. It was Frank Miller, Jim Lee, Adam Kubert, John Romita Jr., and somebody, I don't know, it was a hand, it was like, I'm forgetting. But Greg Capullo, right? Like, again, Greg, like, okay.
Yes.
Every single one of them grew up and got into the industry and learned their craft with plots, ideas, not full scripts. And you're holding them up as sort of like the gold standard, these 5-6 artists, which they were, and yet the way they were taught is impossible for a new kid to learn.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't exist. It's a weird thing to me that, hey, spaghetti, and look how good they are, but the new kids, we won't let them eat spaghetti. I don't get it. But anyways, so when I get the new kids, I go, I don't know how many full scripts you've done, but I'm never giving you a full script. And the problem with that is a lot of artists have lost the muscle, the skill of telling a story themselves. And so it usually takes 3 or 4 months, and then they get into the groove, and then they go, oh man, like, make up whatever I want to draw. Yep. You can put whatever you want in those pages. I'll figure it out. So, and guess what? It helps keep the artist happy, and a happy artist will keep working for you. This is the key. So, but that's me.
And also,
I'm a silly.
Also, they took out the fun part and the creative part. I mean, if you take out imagination, what's left? There's
Yeah.
nothing.
Like, that'd be like the screenwriter. It's, to me, it's the equivalent of letting the person who wrote the novel or the screenplay tell Steve to put his camera. No. Steven's pretty good. James Cameron, pretty good. Just give them the idea, give them the script, give it, like, they'll take it from here, right? To me, us artists, we should be the directors. We should be able to sort of change stuff up. Here's the thing. Every writer will say to you, well, you can change whatever you want. They'll all say it. You can change whatever you want. But the moment you read a full script and you intentionally change it with your head, you know you're changing something, and you can't unread that what you're changing. And so it's not the same thing as just saying, hey, 3 pages of Wolverine fighting Magneto, and I need these 3 things to happen. Now go. You choreograph your own fight. Go.
Dunque, cambiamo completamente argomento e passiamo all'Image Comics, un capitolo fondamentale nella vita di Todd, e dunque vorrei chiedergli se si ricorda e se gli va di raccontarci il momento esatto in cui è nata l'Image Comics.
Yeah, it's interesting that the three people that were at the crux of that moment were Rob Liefeld and Eric Larson and myself. So my recollection, you might want to double check it with Eric and Rob, but it kind of goes something like this. Rob Liefeld was going to go and do his own comic book. He was working at Marvel. We were all working at Marvel. And he was going to go do his own comic book. And Emerson was going to go do his own comic book. I mean, away from, I was, my wife and I were going to have our first child, and I was done. I was done with Marvel at that point. And so I was going to go do my own comic book. But we were all friends. And we were asking the question, I was constantly asking the question, like, and prior to that, I was a guy who wanted to start a union. I thought that the creative people that we would be stronger together than apart. And I couldn't figure out how to pull that off, even though I asked lots and lots of people if they wanted to join a union. So at some point, given that Eric Larson and Rob Liefeld and myself were all going to do our own books, then somewhere in that conversation, it was like, well, why are we going to do it three different places? Why don't we do it in one place, the three of us, in one spot? And that was sort of the moment that we all just went, yeah, makes sense. Why we'll get better sort of PR and marketing if we're all three together and in one spot. And then very quickly, Rob said, "Hey, I got this guy Jim Valentino. He does independent comics. Can he join?" And it was like, "Yeah, what do you mean? Like, the more the merrier." Boom. So 4, and the 4 of us were going to start. I don't know if we had the name at that point, but we were gonna join and start our own comic company. And we went to New York, and we were going to tell Marvel and eventually DC that we were quitting, the 4 of us. But in that 24 hours of landing in New York and waiting for the meeting, I met by accident. I met Jim Lee, and Jim Lee happened to be in New York, and Jim was asked like why I was there, and I told him, and I gave him a sales pitch, and I went, "Come on, man, it'd be super cool if you came." And Jim Lee said yes. Oh, by the way, I got a buddy named Will Sprataccio. Bam, 6. And then that night, as I'm going to the hotel, by coincidence, Mark Silvestri happened to be at the hotel. Don't know why. And he happened to be in the lobby. And he was like, "Hey, Todd, what are you doing here?" And I told him, and I gave him the sales pitch. Bam. So we went to New York with 4. By the time we went to the meeting, we were 7. And adding Mark Silvestri and Will Sprataccio and Jim Lee, the Golden Boy, was really super, super important for the success of that happening. And that was it. And then somewhere along the line, the name Image comes along. I don't know if it was before or after, but that came from Rob Liefeld, from a commercial. He saw a commercial of Andre Agassi, a tennis player who had a commercial with a camera. And he said, and they'd take a picture and then he'd say, "Image is everything." And so it was like, hey, we should use Image. So that was it. And then he drew the image eye. And that was December 1991. And we haven't looked back. And here we are, still thriving 30 years later. I mean, some changes along the way, not the same founders. Obviously, we started a superhero company, but Image Comics is alive and well.
Ok, Todd, parliamo di Spawn. Spawn forse è un po' è un personaggio che tu hai coltivato, che tu avevi in mente sin da ragazzo, e quindi quando sei riuscito a portarlo finalmente su carta è stato un po' il raggiungimento dei tuoi sogni e allo stesso tempo anche un riassunto di quelle che erano le tue esperienze fino a quel momento. Quindi ti chiedo, come nasce il primo arco narrativo di Spawn che è entrato ormai nella storia?
So we have to go back to when I was about 16 and I created the character, right? So I just started creating, collecting comics. I decide maybe I might want to try and see if I can break into this industry as an artist. And so I start drawing and drawing and drawing. And so I draw, the Marvel characters. I draw the DC characters, but I also was making characters up. And one of them, as a young 16-year-old boy, was a character that I gave the name Spawn to. I wanted to call him Hell Spawn, but I thought back then, that was in the mid 70s, like nobody would buy a book with the word hell on it. But times have changed. You got a book called Hellboy, does quite well. um, so I just cut it down from Hellspawn to Spawn. And the story that I came up with as a 16-year-old, oddly, I did like a 30-40 page story and I put it away. And then all of a sudden now, fast forward, I'm about 30 years old. We left Marvel and now we each have to come up with our own book. And I never forgot the character Spawn. He was always in the back of my mind. And I go, well, I know who I'm going to do. This character called Spawn. And the original idea was set in the future. It was like a sci-fi book. But I just put it in modern times. But it was weird. I didn't go back and reread it. I just started coming up with the story, issue number 1. But when I did go back and reread the original, I was surprised at how many pieces I had kept of it, which was that this character, even when I was 16, was, had lost the love of his life and was trying to get her back. And because of that, made a bad decision, right? But he did it for the right reason of wanting to tell his wife that he loved her. That was it. That was the emotion that they preyed upon, right? And I think most us human beings, given that, or we could have a moment and come back and have one last sentence to the person we love the most, we would take it, right? Because we would want to come back and say, I'm going to be gone, but I love you, right? Forever. Boom, out. And so it was that was sort of it, right? And then I just, I learned a couple things, location, location, location. Real estate, it matters. And then the other one is stick to what you know. And what I knew was I knew my personality. We talked about it before with Batman. And so I was like, I'm just going to do a character and write them as if it was me, right? Boom, here we go. Here we go. Which is why there are things at the beginning where, he goes up to a guy and says, you need to start paying your alimony to your wife and your kids, right? Those are your responsibility, right? That's what a man does. He stands up to his obligations. So it was just these little pushes that I was able to then put like a little bit of Todd into my characters. But more importantly than that, remember, I get to write my own stuff. So I get to draw whatever I want. And I get to have as much fun as I want. And I get to tell the stories that I want. And by issue 5, and just so you know, like if you look at the credits, like the first 3-4 issues, the editor on the book was this young lady I was dating when I created Spawn when I was 16. She was 13. And we ended up dating for 7 years, and then we ended up getting married, and we're going to celebrate our 40th anniversary here in a couple months. So I've been with this lovely lady, Wanda. Her name's Wanda, not a coincidence. The Wanda in the Spawn book is there. But she was the editor on it. But then I even pushed her off the book, my dear wife, because issue 5 is important to me creatively. And issue 5 is the introduction of a pedophile child killer named Billy Kincaid. And in that issue, in its simplest form, Spawn kills him. Kills him. Now, that was my issue to say, I'm not doing Batman. If you guys think this is Batman, well, buckle up, because it's not, right? Batman's owned by a corporation. He's got a mythology, can only do so much. And I'm going, no, right? And it's not that I wanted to do a character that kills per se, any more than I want to do a character that curses or any of that. I wanted to have the freedom that if I felt the story required it, that I wouldn't be limited of being able to finish it that way. And at Marvel and DC, I would be limited. And so I go, no, I'm going to tell the story, and he's going to kill the kid killer. And here's why. Again, going back to my personality, and I may scare people right now. If somebody lived on my block and I knew that they were raping children, and every time they go to jail, they get out, and then they rape a child and they get out, and they rape a child and they get out, right? Like the Joker, he doesn't rape children, but he kills people. At what point do you say the system is failing us? And if I'm going to protect my own children, the system's not doing it for me, I'm going to have to do it for my own family and for my own sake. And I bet you I could actually find some other fathers that would join me. And so we would go pay a visit to our Billy Kincaid down the street. I don't know. He would disappear. He would just disappear. I don't know how and why. He just would. Why? Because that's what you got to do. You got to protect people from monsters. And Billy Kincaid was a monster that the system couldn't figure out. Neither could they could for Joker, which is why Dark Knight was so impressive. He finally killed the Joker. Done. Batman would have killed the Joker by issue 9. And if he had done that, if Batman had killed Joker early in the gig, like Spawn would have, then there'd be 30 people still alive. Mm-hmm. I don't know. At what point do you go, we have to protect the innocent at the cost, potentially, of the evil? And if that means that there's a vigilante aspect to it, which is what I'm talking about, then so be it. But that's it. So that's Spawn. Oh, by the way, that's not what he wants to be. He just wants to go find the love of his wife, of his life, which is his wife, his ex-wife. That was it. And then all this pressure comes. And he's like, just leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone. And they won't leave him alone. And so at what point do you stand and push back when they won't? You've told them 1,000 times, stop it, and they won't. At some point you have to push back. So that's who Spawn is. Like I said, just a lot of Todd nonsense in that character. So he's not afraid. He's not afraid of them anymore. For about 250 issues, he didn't want anything to do with it. He wanted, just leave me alone. I want to go find a normality. And then he woke up one day and he went, I will never be normal. This will never change. I'm the one that's crazy because I keep thinking I can go to normal. It's over. They're never going to stop. And they're bad guys. So why don't you learn how to be a hero and protect people so that, because they ended up killing his wife. Why don't you go and try and stop them so that they don't kill other people's wives and other people's loved ones? I don't know. That's it. He's just like, I won't let this happen to other people because I know how much this hurts personally. So it's time to eradicate them. That's his mission. Done. Get rid of evil. Done.
It's very, it moves a lot of things.
Wow.
Inside. It's very, yeah. We could all feel it. So And after all, it's not that crazy. I mean, each one of us, if pushed to that level, probably, at one point you have loved ones and you gotta do something. So
It's weird to me, like my wife, I love her to death, right? It's been almost 50 years now between marriage and dating. And she was like, I would never tell a lie. Like she's a sweet person. And I'm like, of course you would never lie. Of course you would. In the right circumstance, you
yeah.
would lie, right? We all do things that we don't think that we're capable of until the moment comes. And she's like, I would never do it. And I go, sure, okay. I'll just give you an easy one. You are hiding Anne Frank. The door knocks. The Nazis are at the front door. And they say, Wanda, are you hiding any children upstairs in your house? What's your answer? You got two choices. You can tell them the truth, and then that girl's going to get killed. Or you can lie and protect that girl. I don't know. I'd tell a lie at that moment. So, yes, we're all capable. We're all capable of doing things that we think that we can until we're forced to. So, the thing with characters in movies and TV and comic books and books is that they're put into a lot of times extreme situations, and then they have to make a decision. And we, as the viewer, at times watch these and go, yeah, what would I do? Would I have the courage to stand up to that? Or would I just leave? Would I basically do the right thing knowing it's going to cost me everything that I have? My job, my neighbors, my friends, maybe even my own family. But there are people in the world, history has shown us, and sadly, they are unicorns. They are unicorns. They're so rare to find that in spite of losing potentially everything in their life, they will do the right thing. And you know why I believe they will do the right thing? Because they know that even though it will cost them everything, if they don't, they will never have a good night's sleep for the rest of their life. Their conscience will not allow them to sleep soundly for the rest of their life. So they have to. The only way to sleep is I've got to do this. And if nobody else understands it, it's okay. We make movies of those people, we make statues of those people, but they're few and far between. I wish there was a million examples of them. They're not.
Going back to your being competitive, you managed, thanks to Spawn, to beat in several times two giants like Marvel and DC to the game they have been playing for a long time. So how did it feel to be being able to do something they have been doing for so long, but with your own rules, with your own company, with image, and being able to with your competitiveness, saying, okay, yeah, but I got there. I even beat you.
So here's I think sometimes people sort of see the the career path a little bit upside down of what it is that I've done. I got hopefully I got enough wisdom early on in the game to go when you go up against giants, right? And in the toy industry, that's like Hasbro and Mattel, and in the comic book industry, that's like Marvel and DC. When you're going up against Godzilla, the goal isn't to kill Godzilla. You can't. I'm a little human. That's Godzilla. Like I'm a little guy. The victory isn't to kill Godzilla because you're never going to do it. The bigger question, it's actually the opposite question. Why can't they kill us? Why can't they kill me? They're Godzilla. They are way bigger. They have more power. They have more people. They have more money. And yet they can't figure out a way to get me out of the competition. Right? Shame on them, right? Like how you letting this little ant of a person and a company, Todd and his company, go up against you billion-dollar big giant companies and survive, number one, be relevant, number two, and take your space. If they're buying my comic book, if somebody buying my comic book, that's a comic book they're not buying of yours. If they're buying my toy, they're not buying yours. Shame on you. Shame on you, big giant. Now, either that means that either what we do, what I do off in the corner, that I just employ nothing but geniuses and we're like super smart, or that the big companies don't always know what they're doing. And I think the answer is a little bit of both. I think they underestimate people. I think big companies get complacent. Ask IBM how that worked with their computers when this little guy called Steve Jobs came with a thing called Apple, right? Just a little guy. Who cares? Who cares? Until it mattered, and they weren't able to sort of squish him. So the joy and the satisfaction is not to put a dent in Marvel, DC, Hasbro, Mattel, whoever the big companies are. It's to survive, period. And they can't kill me. They can't get rid of me in the competition. That's the victory. And I've been able to do it now for 40 years almost in both of those areas. Cool. That's what gets me up in the morning, that I have total freedom to do whatever I want creatively, and nobody, not even the giants, can take it away from me. It's a good life. It's a good life when you have freedom. And oh, by the way, people give you money and you could sustain that living of doing what you love and not have to get approval from people. It's a good life. So I wish it upon everybody.
Ok, allora torniamo a parlare un po' della scrittura, un processo creativo che Todd ha sviluppato su Spider-Man e poi ovviamente anche su Spawn, soprattutto nella fase iniziale. Allora, volevo chiedere a Todd se il fatto di essere un autore unico di Spawn, almeno nella prima parte della sua vita editoriale, fosse nei suoi piani da subito, insomma, se lui aveva sempre pensato a se stesso come unico autore di Spawn, almeno nei primi anni.
Yeah. So let's just go back just a little bit. And here's the thing that I'm going to go to my grave with, that probably the biggest selling comic book that I've ever written will be my worst book that I've ever written, because it was my first issue, right? First issue was Spider-Man. Big giant sales, right? But it was my first writing. So I was terrible at it. But it was my biggest sales. So it's a weird thing. I stay with Spawn, and I've evolved Spawn, I think, simply because I've been with him for so long. I think if Stan Lee had stayed with Iron Man or Hulk or Spider-Man for 30 years, I think that those characters would have evolved more too, right? But that's not how the system works. The system works, a writer comes in, even somebody like Stan, who's the creator, he does 20, 30 issues, 40 issues, and then somebody comes in behind them, repeats kind of what the first person did. And then somebody then comes after that person and kind of repeats a lot of, like, so there's a lot of repetition. And so the characters don't evolve a lot because you don't have one singular person behind it. In this case, that one of those examples now is Spawn. You also have things like Walking Dead and The Savage Dragon by Eric Larson, where one person is behind it for decades. And you can see the evolution of what happens with those characters. And I think it's simply because the one person behind it for Walking Dead, Robert Kirkman, along with his artist, but on the writing side, Robert Kirkman, that he has to basically entertain himself, right? I think that's an aspect people forget. We have to entertain ourselves because otherwise it becomes a job, and we want it to be more of a joy, not a job, a joy. So we're able to sort of shift and change with them. And so for Spawn, I've had people say like Todd, how can you be involved with Spawn for 360 issues? It's mind numbing. And for me, it's easy because I need him in my life, because I deal with toys and Hollywood and video games and all these other things where I go and get other people's brands, or I'm asking for other people's money, or I gotta get other people to approve stuff. And there can be a frustration that comes with it at times. But no matter what happens in my day, in the corner, I've got this thing called Spawn. And it's mine 100%. And no matter how bad of a day I'm having, I can look at my little guy, Spawn, and go, man, I've got an idea. And I can implement it right there. I don't have to get anybody's approval. I get to just be creative. And so I need, where people think that keeping Spawn going is a task, is somehow a burden, it's the opposite for me and my personality. It's my chicken noodle for my soul. I need my Spawn. I need my Spawn for my sanity to be there. So how have I kept them going? I don't know. You just come up with goofy stories, right? Like, I mean, again, it's just sort of, I don't overthink it. As a matter of fact, my process of writing would horrify most writers. So, and part of it is that I give like half a plot to the artist, and I don't even know what the second half's going to be until it's like they say, Todd, he's done with the pages. He needs 10 more pages. And I go, oh, and then I go reread what I sent them, and I go, oh yeah, okay, I got to finish this. But it also allows me to say, oh, he got sick for 2 days. He's behind. I now need to create a scene that's easy for him to draw so that he can meet his deadline. Or I've got to put in a reporter's page, or so, like I've got to be able to adjust on the fly to the life of the people that are helping me create. And sometimes it's not getting rigid with what I'm doing with the story. So I'm doing a big story right now, right? I mean, a big story. It's going to be big and grand, and it's going to be giant monsters and a bunch of superheroes, and going to be it's like hell on earth. It's going to be a big event book. The crux of that story is simple. It at the end of the story, I only want one thing out of it: that the earth that Spawn lives in now knows that it is populated with dozens, if not hundreds, of costumed characters. Because up till now, Spawn was one book, and he was in the shadows, and nobody really kind of knew he existed, and he hid, and he was hiding. And then it sort of expanded a little bit, and every now and then the public has seen just a little bit, but it's like, it might just be some crazy guy in a costume, like whatever. This story is now going to tear that Band-Aid off and say, no, Todd, if you're going to have all these characters in the Spawn universe, the world needs to know they exist. That's what that story is. So given that I want the world, the governments, the leaders, the corporations to know these beings exist, how do I get to that point? I don't know. I'll do a big giant. We'll do a big giant. We'll have lots of characters. We'll have some fun. We'll do the comic book stuff to get to the point of that the world now knows. Why is that important? Because now everybody will react with that knowledge. The government will now react with, can we recruit them? Will they be on our side? Are they good guys or are they bad guys? And if we can recruit them, will they basically go and go after the bad guys that we consider to be our enemies? Or are they going to be true superheroes and look at the world more grander, or will they be more myopic? I don't know. Those are all interesting stories to potentially think about and write. So how do you get there? I don't know. You got to do some fun, goofy stuff. I do a lot of fun, goofy stuff to get to these points.
Ok, volevo aggiungere soltanto una piccolissima cosa che appunto è così importante per la sua sanità mentale, Spawn, che infatti il simbolo di Spawn è anche il simbolo della sua azienda di giocattoli.
I actually made something like a shield, and I was going to actually put it like high on my house and paint it so it matched. Like, it would be like, instead of a gargoyle, it would be like the Spawn symbol, and only us geeks would know, right? But it's to just sort of say, I can't afford that house if I don't have that guy, right? I don't have a toy company if I don't have that guy, right? I don't have 30 years of doing comic books if I don't have that guy, right? So he's been super important in being the sort of the tip of the spear to help drive so many other things that now, I employ people, right? I employ 100 people to help with various things. And it's all because of couple ideas that sort of sprang from my head. Cool, right? And so it's frustrating when I'm not creating, I'm being a businessman, because it's like it all comes from being creative. And so I'm constantly reminded, like, Todd, you do what comes natural, which is just create.
Senti, io invece ti volevo chiedere di Spawn Batman. È il time-up più iconico degli anni 90, che ha avuto poi anche un sequel. Tu hai lavorato su questo progetto insieme a Frank Miller e Greg Capullo. Sono questi due artisti, questi due autori, quelli a cui tu sei più legato a livello lavorativo?
Spawn Batman. Spawn Batman. Look at this one here. This is right. That was from
Wow.
Capullo. Capullo, yeah. Batman, cool Batman, right? Yeah, we had a lot of fun. I think that Frank Miller is the preeminent storyteller of our industry. Period. Like he just knows how to tell stories, I think, better than anybody else. And maybe part of that is because he does all of it. He does the art and he does the writing for the vast majority of the ones that we know him for. If you want to make the argument of, is his anatomy as good as Jim Lee's or Mark Silvestri, the answer is no, right? But that's not, to me, what comic books are. Comic books are big, they're bombastic, they're Broadway plays, right? Everything is over, like, whoa, and which is why Jack Kirby was so great. And so there's a melodrama to comic books, but within all of that, you can then do these really human stories that are there. And Frank has figured out how to not get absorbed with doing a cityscape with all the details in the buildings like the rest of us, right? Like, oh man, look at us, look at this, look how good we are. Frank just goes, no, right? I'm going to just tell a story, and half the panels don't even need backgrounds because you're going to be so absorbed in what I'm telling you. That's him. Greg Capullo is, I think, the best comic book artist working in the business right now. And the reason I say that, and it's not because he's a dear friend, which he is, it's because I know the difficulty of doing a comic book page, and to convince people that there's a real world, a 3D world on a 2D piece of paper, and to be able to move the camera anywhere you want at any time, close, far, up, down, and make it all convincing. And then to add dynamics on top of all of it. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to go with it. Greg Capullo does all of them really, really well. As a matter of fact, amazing at times. And then he also does it at a high frequency of work. He turns out a ton of work. So it's not like he does it once a year. He does a
Yeah.
lot of it. And so again, it's I know how difficult that is and how amazing it is. And so Greg Capullo is like, and I put like Mark Silvestri was like that. Before them, there was an artist named John Buscema that was like that could take the camera anywhere and move it around. John Buscema did a lot of Conan the Barbarian. Could move the camera anywhere, and you just went, "Yep, it's the same guy, same thing, dramatic. The anatomy's great. Everything is great, 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 great." So I've had the good fortune of working in an industry and being able to buddy up with people that are some of the top talents in the industry. Good on me. Good, like that's part of the fun. Like it's fun for me to sit and do what I want, but sometimes it's like, hey, why don't we go and do this together? Be fun, like going on a date. Let's go on a date, right? Cool. So
So,
Nice.
going back to Spawn, in 2019, you made a big revolution, Spawn universe. So you added more characters. There were some series coming out of this Spawn universe, King Spawn, Gunslinger, and others. So this expansion was still part of what we were saying before. I mean, was it a continuation of the thing you were saying us? So the fact that you need to go back there, yeah, yeah. So is it because you need to go back
Okay.
there that at one point it just came out this idea of creating a universe out of it?
it's because there's she spawn, Miss She Spawn, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
sassy. It was because I had one book and I had all these characters starting to multiply. And after 25 years of doing Spawn, there was a lot of characters. And I felt like the Spawn comic was becoming a team up book, right? It felt like it was like, oh man, the only way I can get that character in, I got to go through Spawn. The only way I can get that character in, I got to go through Spawn. And so it was getting crowded in this. I thought it was getting a little crowded. And I think Spawn works best when he's by himself. I think he's like Batman. When he works by himself, it's cool when he's with Robin, but he's way better when he's just by himself. Um, and so I go, well, there's only one way I can tell some of these stories and let these characters evolve. I'm going to have to give them their own pages. And the only way to give them their own pages, I'm going to have to give them a book. So that was it, 2021. And the planning came in about 2019 when we broke the record for the longest running creator owned book, right? With issue 301.
Yeah.
And if you look at the two covers that I inked over Jerome Pena, they seemed like out of place because it was like, why is he doing these two covers with all these characters in them? And my answer was, when a couple people asked me, was just wait, because I knew what I was planning at that point, and the plan was to expand the universe, and that really was what issue 300 and 301 is. If you sort of subtract everything else, at the end, it was bam, a time rip happened, and a bunch of characters came in, and they're now all in the same place as Spawn. That's basically what the story was for 300, 301. Just like I was saying with the big fight story, that at the end, the earth knows there's human beings. Sometimes you do big stories to get to your one point. And the one point at 301 was the universe has just expanded. I don't know if you were paying attention, but it just expanded. And then I officially came out with the books to make sure that everybody knew that. And now we do miniseries, and we're doing 2-3 books a week now, where before I was doing one a month. And it allows me to tell different types of stories with different types of characters and not have to put them in the Spawn comic book.
Okay. Allora, prima abbiamo accennato alla tua azienda, la Todd McFarlane Toys. Hai rivoluzionato anche in questo caso il concetto di action figure e sembra quasi che tu leggi nelle menti dei fan e dei nerd per portare sempre sul mercato prodotti nuovi. Ecco, qual è un po' il segreto di cosa viene scelto di portare sul mercato in quel momento? Quindi qual è un po' lo studio magari, oppure se tu hai parecchie decisioni su cosa portare sul mercato.
I think I get way too much credit for doing what I think probably everybody else was sort of thinking of at the time. They just didn't have the money and the creative people to help them get there. But I'm
Mm.
guessing there were tens of thousands, not millions of people that were collecting that were saying the same thing I was saying, which is why can't toys look better? I didn't invent that line. I think everybody was saying it. Why can't they look cooler? I'm now 20 years old. How come they still look like when I was 6 years old? So I just have been fortunate enough to be able to take my ideas and actually implement them. Right? Like, what would a comic book look like if you had total freedom? All right, well, let's go start a toy company. Or I mean, a comic company. Oh, what would a toy look like if you want to make it cooler than what's out in the marketplace? I don't know. I don't even know how to make a toy, but let's go start a toy company. So the all I wanted to do was just make a good looking, cool looking toy. I've said plenty of times. I'm at its core, I am in the cool business. Period. Does that toy look cool? No. Does that one? No. And if it doesn't exist, when's somebody going to make it? At some point, you have to just make it yourself. It's like you just got to go, well, if nobody's going to do it, I guess I'll, like, come on, let's go make some toys. I don't even know how to make a toy, but let's go. But once we do make a toy, do I know how to put detail and paint toy? Yeah, of course I can. Of course I can. I'm not a public company, so I don't have to maximize profits. So let's just make a better toy than anybody's making, and that's the only way you're going to get attention. I didn't have Marvel or DC or Star Wars or Transformers or Pokemon. I didn't have any big brands. I had Spawn. Who knows Spawn? Nobody knew what Spawn was. So I just had to make a better toy than everybody else at the same price. That was that's what I did. And here's really going back to the question about, like, no, why can't they kill me? Right? They're Godzilla. I'm just a little guy.
Yeah.
The question isn't, Todd, how did you make such cool looking toys? The question is, how did they not? How did they not? They've been doing it for 50 years. They had all the same tools, all the same reference, all the same stuff I had. Why didn't they put it in a better form? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
just one very quick thing before going on with our questions. I love the fact that not knowing how to do it did not stop you. I mean, you didn't know how to write. That didn't stop you from starting. You didn't know how to make toys. That didn't stop you from doing it. So, I love this. I have to say, I really love this.
I think probably some of the best ideas in history, I'm guessing, but I started with this sentence. I know this sounds stupid, but,
Yeah.
and then they said it.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, like sometimes being the dumb person in the room, you don't know what you don't know. So I'm curious, and I ask a lot of questions, and it's like, why can't we do this? Why can't we do this? Why can't we do this? And unless there's only really two good answers, especially when you're dealing with a company, it's gonna blow the deadline. Can't do it. It's gonna take too long, or it's gonna cost too much money, and we don't have the budget. That's
Yeah.
it. And so I'm constantly asking questions, and I did it when I took over the HBO animated series with Spawn. I didn't know anything about animation, but I kept asking questions. And they go, Todd, it's going to ruin the budget. Todd, it's going to ruin the deadline, the budget, the deadline. But every now and then I'd ask a question and it was silence, which meant it's not budget and it's not deadline. It's just us not being creative enough. Let's go. Let's go. Like, why don't we want to hit the sides of the fences? Whatever the box is they put it in, hit the side of the box. So I don't know. I think I've just been lucky enough to do what others were already thinking. They just they weren't in a position to do anything about it. I have, and so I get more credit than I'm due, I think. But it's been good for my career, so thank you.
Ok, allora siamo quasi arrivati al termine di questa nostra chiacchierata, e però insomma non possiamo davvero non chiederti delle notizie sul prossimo film di Spawn.
We are constantly working on it. As a matter of fact, while I was doing that interview, I got a phone call from Blumhouse, which are the people we're trying to make the movie with. So we're constantly trying to get that boulder up the hill. So there's not a day that there isn't somebody trying to do it. But it's been so long and we've had setbacks with it that and things that got in the way, like pandemics and writer strikes and whatever, that I just think at this point it's better to just get it done, to make the deal, and then come out and announce the deal, and that the next piece of information is we're done. We're not that the movie's done, but we're done making the deal, which means we're going into production.
Okay.
We're going to make a film. I want the next piece of news to be we've just made a deal and we have a date to begin production. It's coming. It's coming, right? And so, like I'm going a little bit sort of quiet just until I get to that. I don't want to tease people anymore because I've been teasing them
Right.
for far too long and it's driving my wife crazy. So she's like, just make your damn movie. And she's right. So I think that's it. I think people want to know deal's done.
Yeah.
When's it coming out? When's it coming out? Deal's done. When's it coming out? And then we can sort of say, here's the people that are going to be involved. But that's it. When's it coming? When can I go see this thing? That's it. Otherwise,
Whenever you have these two pieces of information, we're here. So in case you want to tell us first, we're very happy to do that for you.
well, again, part of those conversations, those calls are part of that. So
Sure.
we're hopefully, again, fingers crossed, everything goes in the right direction here.
Ok, per l'ultimissima domanda chiamiamo il nostro Mike, che era quella che ti avevamo accennato prima riguardante i videogiochi e gli arcade.
Okay, so we have our very very last question with Mike. That was the one we told you about video games and arcade games and so on.
Prima di fare una domanda, però, volevo dire che in ogni casa di un buon nerd c'è un po' di Todd. Volevo solo far vedere questa cosa qua.
Okay, so what he was saying is that in each nerd's house there must be a little bit of you. There is for sure a little bit of Todd. So it's either with comic books or with So there's a little bit of you in all of our houses. All of our homes do have a little bit of Todd.
Well, here's what I would say is that I think the comic books and toys are in a little bit of a bubble. And so if I can get this Spawn movie that we're talking about outside, then all of a sudden then it becomes hats and t-shirts and video games and all of a sudden this word will become way, way, way more global than it is. And people think it's already a big name. It hasn't gotten out of the bubble in the truest sense. Like, look at, if I say to people right now, if I walked up to your mom in Italy and I said, hey, I created Spawn, she's probably going to look at me like, I don't even know what you said. But potentially, if I said I co-created Venom, she might actually go, didn't I see a commercial about that? Right? Didn't mind. I think I heard one of the neighbors say that they went to that movie. Like, boom, you got outside the bubble, right? You got outside the bubble. So usually when people go, I don't know anything about Spawn, it's like you go to the default and you go, oh, I co-created Spawn. Oh man, you must be good, right? Why? Because they went to the movie. So I gotta get Spawn out. I gotta get Spawn in a much bigger way.
Dunque, la rubrica che curo per MegaNerd si chiama Passione Arcade e quindi io vorrei fare questa domanda a Todd, una domanda che ho fatto a molti ospiti. Se ti dico sala giochi, a te Todd cosa viene in mente?
I'm a boomer, so arcade. Then Pac-Man, because when I went to college, right? Like, this is how old I am. Like there weren't video game consoles and like at home consoles at that point. I'm now talking like 1980. So everything was at the college, right? And they had the arcade games that were there. I wasn't very good at them. Let me also say I wasn't very good. But that's where you put your quarters or your money. Yeah. So the next person would come and have to play. So I would go down with my buddies. I wasn't very good, but I'd watch them do their thing. And then as I ended up getting my job in comic books, spending a lot of time with building that career. And by the time I turned back and looked at arcade games, and now at this point, video games, wow, did they, like, there was this big giant jump, right? There was, I'm like, whoa. So like Pac-Man, I was just like one knob and I wasn't very good. And now you're telling me I got to hold something and I gotta do this. Like, I wasn't even good at this. So by the time I came back to video games, they had gotten like way too complicated for my skill sets. So I watch my son, I watch my employees play, I watch some of the channels, and I admire it from a distance for the most part, but I'm not very good at any of it. I look at it all visually to just see like how the animation's getting better and how the lighting's getting better and how the energy glows are getting better and the magic spells are getting better. And just watching the evolution of, arcade video games now compared to when I was a kid. So, because everything was left to right. Right? Remember? That was it. That's me. I'm old school, right? So.
Okay, so
Bene.
thank you very much for everything, for answering our questions, for giving us such a beautiful insight on, on what's behind the scenes. It's always nice to see it,
Sì, noi avremmo continuato per altre 3 ore, però insomma ci rendiamo conto che sta diventando
Yeah,
un
we would have
momento,
gone
quindi
for a lot longer, but we understand that it seems like we kidnapped you. So your wife might ask where are you? So
I gotta take the dog for a walk.
so that's why he's there. Okay.
But I'll when and if the Spawn movie comes out, I'm gonna make my rounds globally, and I'll make sure to put Italy on the map when I come and make my visits. I want to come visit Europe when I've got something really big to say to a lot of people, not just the nerds that have been there for the last 30 years. I love them. They'll always be priority number one. But I want to be able to say something that matters to your next door neighbor too. So, hey, there's a cool movie. Go watch the trailer. You might like it. So.
Voglio solo dire a Todd, thank you for the image comics, because I think without the Image Comics, we never have a very, very big and incredible stories.
Yeah, no. I'm quite proud. I'm like a proud father of Image, that when I see Walking Dead and Saga and Department of Truth and these books that have been coming out for
Invincible.
like that's it. Like, I'm so proud that it's like, it doesn't have to be superhero Spawn stuff. It doesn't have to be any of that, right? It's these beautiful books that people have been bringing us for 30 years. So I'm like I said, I'm like a dad that has like thousands of babies that are called comic books that they do, and because but look at it, here's how it works. I can get hit by a bus tomorrow. I can die tomorrow. Image comic book's still going to be alive and well, and that's the victory. The victory is it's going to live beyond the
Yeah.
original founders' idea of it. Perfect. I'm hoping the same for Spawn, and my toy company. Like, once I'm long gone, people still want some of the stuff that we've created. Cool. That's the victory, right? That's the
Yes.
victory.
Yes.
It's taking, for me, it's taking the example of Walt Disney and bringing it down to this small. He created Mickey Mouse. He's not with us. Mickey Mouse is.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so I
Yes.
wanted Spawn to
Yeah.
be my Mickey Mouse that would outlive me. So hopefully we'll see.
Fantastic.
Mickey
Mickey
Spawn.
Mickey Spawn. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks. Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Be good.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.